Hey guys, what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to read some of the prophecies concerning the Great Catholic Monarch and the Holy Pope. I've gotten these prophecies from a book that was written in the 1970s by Yves Dupont called The Great Coming. It's like the Great Coming Chastisement or something like that. I don't remember the exact title. And these are by no means exhaustive. There's a lot of prophecies concerning the Great Catholic Monarch and the Holy Pope. I just chose a few, not necessarily even the ones that I thought were the better ones. I just chose a few. um, so hopefully you guys will enjoy this, and you'll see what I've been talking about how they've been right so far. Some of these prophecies, and I didn't necessarily include these in there, but some of them will even say, hey, this is going to start in the 20th century, or, towards the end of time, men will fly like birds and swim like fishes under the sea, and one will be able to talk to another one across the world and stuff like that, stuff that's clearly for our time. And these are all private revelations, so nobody's required to believe them, but they have been approved by the church. So, and like I said, they've been right so far. So here we go. The first one is Saint Columba in the 6th century. He says, "Hearken, hearken to what will happen in the later days of the world. There will be a great war, unjust laws will be enacted, the church will be despoiled of her property, people will read and write a great deal, but charity and humility will be laughed at and scorned, and the common people will believe in false ideas." Brother Louis Rocco in the 19th century, "A great king will arise after a period of terrible wars and persecution." Saint Methodius in the 4th century, "A day will come when the enemies of Christ will boast of having conquered the whole world. They will say, Christians cannot escape us now, but a great king will arise to fight the enemies of God. He will defeat them, and peace will be given to the world, and the church will be freed from her anxieties." Pope Pius IX in the 19th century, "There will be a great prodigy which will fill the whole world with awe, but this prodigy will be preceded by the triumph of a revolution, during which the church will go through ordeals that are beyond description." Melanie Calvet, one of the seers at La Salette, so this actually comes from Our Lady, "After a frightful war, a great king will arise, and his reign will be marked by a wonderful peace and a religious revival." Saint Cataldus in the 5th century, "The great king will wage war until the age of 40. He will assemble great armies and hurl back the tyrants of his empire." Father Stoutland in the 19th century, "During the reign of the great king, the noblest virtues will be practiced throughout the world, and the land will yield abundant crops." Ralph Gechner, the 17th century, "A great prince of the north, with a most powerful army, will traverse all Europe, uproot all the republics, and defeat all the rebels. His sword, moved by divine power, will most valiantly defend the Church of Jesus Christ." Saint Thomas Becket, the 12th century, "A knight shall come from the west. He shall capture Milan, Lombardy, and the Three Crowns. He shall then sail to Cyprus and Famagosta and the land of Jaffa, and reach Christ's grave, where he shall fight. Wars and wonders shall befall people until they believe in Christ towards the end of the world." Saint Hildegard, the 12th century, "The time is coming when princes and peoples will reject the authority of the Pope. Some countries will prefer their own church rulers to the Pope. The German Empire will be divided. Church property will be secularized. Priests will be persecuted. Towards the end of the world, mankind will be purified through sufferings. This will be true especially of the clergy, who will be robbed of all their property. A powerful wind will rise in the north, carrying heavy fog and the densest of dust by divine command, and it will fill their throats and eyes, so they will cease their savagery and be stricken with great fear. Before the comet comes, many nations, the good excepted, will be scourged by want and famine. The great nation in the ocean that is inhabited by people of different tribes and descent," sounds like she's talking about America here, "will be devastated by an earthquake, storm, and tidal waves. It will be divided and, in great part, submerged. That nation will also have many misfortunes at sea and lose its colonies. By its tremendous pressure, the comet will force out of the ocean and flood many countries, causing much want and many plagues. All coastal cities will live in fear, and many of them will be destroyed by tidal waves, and most living creatures will be killed, and even those who escape will die from horrible diseases. For in none of those cities does a person live according to the laws of God. Peace will return to the world when the white flower again takes possession of the throne of France. During this period of peace, people will be forbidden to carry weapons, and iron will be used only for making agricultural implants and tools. Also, during this period, the land will be very productive, and many Jews, heathens, and heretics will join the church. Pius X in the 20th century. I saw one of my successors take flight over the bodies of his brethren. He will take refuge in disguise somewhere, and after a short retirement he will die a cruel death. The present wickedness of this world is only the beginning of the sorrows which must take place before the end of the world. Bishop Christinos Agada in the 12th century. In the 20th century there will be wars and fury which will last a long time. Whole provinces shall be emptied of their inhabitants, and kingdoms shall be thrown into confusion. In many places the land shall be left untilled, and there shall be great slaughter of the upper class. The right hand of the world shall fear the left, and the north shall prevail over the south. Abbot Joaquin Merlin in the 13th century. After many long sufferings endured by Christians, and after too great an effusion of innocent blood, the Lord shall give peace and happiness to the desolated nations. A remarkable pope will be seated on the pontifical throne under the special protection of the angels, holy and full of gentleness. He shall undo all wrong. He shall recover the estate of the church and reunite the exiled temporal powers. He shall be revered by everybody and shall recover the kingdom of Jerusalem. He shall reunite the eastern and western churches. The sanctity of this beneficent pontiff will be so great that the highest potentates shall bow down before him in his presence. All men will return to the primitive church, and there shall be only one pastor, one law, one master, humble, modest, and fearing God. Before being firmly and solidly established in the Holy See, however, there will be countless wars and violent conflicts during which the sacred throne will be shaken. But through the favor of divine mercy, moved by the prayers of the faithful, everything will succeed so well that they shall be able to sing hymns of thanksgiving to the glory of the Lord. In order to obtain these happy results, having needed a powerful temporal assistance, the Holy Pontiff will ask for the collaboration of the generous monarch of France. John of Vattigero in the 13th century. Spoliation, pillaging, and devastation of that most famous city, which is the capital and mistress of France, will take place when the church and the world are grievously troubled. The Pope will change his residence, and the church will not be defended for 25 months or more, because during all that time there will be no Pope in Rome, no emperor, no ruler over France. But after this, a young captive prince shall recover the crown of the lilies, and shall extend his dominion all over the world. After many tribulations, a pope shall be elected out of those who survived the persecution. By his sanctity he will reform the clergy, and the whole world shall venerate the church for her sanctity, virtue, and perfection. By the way, when you hear of the crown of the lilies or the white lily, that means the King of France, because the white lily was the flower of the Kingdom of France. John of the Cleft Rock, 14th century. Towards the end of the world, tyrants and hostile mobs will rob the church and the clergy of all their possessions, and will afflict and martyr them. Those who heap the most abuse upon them will be held in high esteem. The clergy cannot escape these persecutions, but because of them all the servants of the church will be forced to lead an apostolic life. At that time the Pope with his cardinals will have to flee Rome in tragic circumstances to a place where they will be unknown. The Pope will die a cruel death in his exile. The sufferings of the church will be greater then than at any previous time in her history. But God will raise a holy Pope, and the angels will rejoice. Enlightened by God, this man will rebuild almost the whole world through his holiness. He will lead everyone to the true faith. Everywhere the fear of God, virtue, and good morals will prevail. He will lead all erring sheep back to the fold, and there shall be one faith, one law, one rule of life, and one baptism on earth. All men will love each other and do good, and all quarrels and wars will cease. Nicholas of Flue from the 15th century. The church will be punished because the majority of her members, high and low, will become so perverted. The church will sink deeper and deeper until she will at least seem to be extinguished, and the succession of Peter and the other apostles to have expired. But after this, she will be victoriously exalted in the sight of all doubters. Tolesphorus of Cosenza, 16th century. A powerful French monarch and French pope will regain the Holy Land after terrible wars in Europe. They will convert the world and bring universal peace. They will overcome the German ruler. David Porus, 17th century. The great monarch will be of French descent, large forehead, large dark eyes, light brown wavy hair, and an eagle nose. He will crush the enemies of the Pope and will conquer the East. Blessed Mary Agreda, 17th century. It was revealed to me that through the intercession of the Mother of God, all heresies will disappear. The victory over heresies has been reserved by Christ for his Blessed Mother. In the later days, the Lord will in a special manner spread the renown of his mother. Mary began salvation, and by her intercession it will be completed. Before the second coming of Christ, Mary, more than ever, must shine in mercy, might, and grace in order to bring unbelievers into the Catholic faith. The power of Mary in the later days will be very conspicuous. Mary will extend the reign of Christ over the heathens and the Mohammedans, and it will be a time of great joy when Mary is enthroned as mistress and queen of hearts. An unusual chastisement of the human race will take place towards the end of the world. Saint Louis Marie de Montfort in the 18th century. The power of Mary over all devils will be particularly outstanding in the last period of time. She will extend the kingdom of Christ over the idolaters and Muslims, and there will be a glorious era when Mary is the ruler and queen of hearts. Bernard Rimbaud, 18th century. Cologne will be the site of a terrible battle. Many foreigners will be slaughtered there. Both men and women will fight for their faith. It will be impossible to prevent this horrible devastation. People will wade up to their ankles in blood. At last, a foreign king will appear and win a victory for the cause of the righteous. The remaining enemy will retreat to the birch tree country. There, the last battle will be fought for the just cause. At that time, France will be divided. The German Empire will choose a simple man as the emperor, who will rule for a short time. His successor will be the man for whom the world has longed. He will be called a Roman emperor. He will give peace to the world. A good and happy era will follow. God will be praised on earth, and war will be no more. Saint Anthony of the Desert, 4th century. Men will surrender to the spirit of the age. They will say that if they had lived in our day, faith would be simple and easy, but in their day they will say things are complex. The church must be brought up to date and made meaningful to the day's problems. When the church and the world are one, then those days are at hand, because our divine master placed a barrier between his things and the things of the world. Saint Francis of Paolo, 15th century. By the grace of the Almighty, the great monarch will annihilate heretics and unbelievers. He will have a great army, and angels will fight at his side. He will be like the sun among the stars. His influence will spread all over the whole earth. All in all, there will be on earth 12 kings, 1 emperor, 1 pope, and a few princes. They will all lead holy lives. Elizabeth Canori Mora, 19th century. Countless legions of demons shall overrun the earth, the instrument of divine justice, and causing terrible calamities and disasters. Nothing on earth shall be spared. After the frightful punishment, I saw a great light appear upon the earth, which was the sign of the reconciliation of God with men. All men shall become Catholics, and they shall acknowledge the Pope as the victor of Christ. Well, there you have it. I don't really know how to pronounce all the names of the mystics and the people who gave the prophecies, so I'm sure I probably butchered quite a few of their names, so I do apologize for that. So, some common themes here. What's going to happen? Just like I said before, the world's going to rise up against the Catholic Church. It's going to look dead. The world's going to fall into a great war. Many people are going to die. The great French monarch's going to come, restore Christendom, restore the Catholic Church. The Pope, they're going to elect a new Pope, and it's going to be Christendom. And this is going to be the triumph of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. So, but what do we do in the meantime? Because we're getting ready to run into some pretty bad times. Well, first of all, we don't know when this is going to happen. It looks like it could happen within the next few years, but it may be 100 years before it happens. But we need to be prepared, and Mary is very clear in all of her apparitions. Pray the rosary every day, wear the brown scapular, do the first 5 Saturdays, consecrate yourself to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, and you will receive special protection. Now, that does not necessarily mean that you won't die. It could mean that you die in a state of grace with the sacraments and you go straight to heaven. That's what it could mean. But it is Mary's Immaculate Heart that's going to triumph in the end, and she gets to decide who gets to see the restoration. So we need to stay close to Mary, pray the rosary, wear the brown scapular, and don't get discouraged about the state of the church. It looks bad right now, but it's going to get a lot worse. It's going to look like it's dead. And don't listen to your Protestant friends who talk about the rapture and once saved, always saved and all that stuff. And I've got videos on that to disprove those points. But they think this is the end of the world, and it's not. It's the chastisement. And at the end of the chastisement, what's going to happen is the restoration of the church, Christendom, and everyone's going to be Catholic. So hang in there, stay Catholic, stay strong, and that's it. Until my next video, God bless.